Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about microcheating and its impact on relationships. So if you guys get a lot out of this topic, I will definitely do a series of videos. It's all about literally the impact for each major attachment style, because I know that this not just presents differently for different attachment styles, but also affects different attachment styles differently in relationships. So we can do a deep dive into that. But what I want to just start with talking about is microcheating in general and how it impacts relationships over time. So microcheating, out of all the different definitions I found, my favorite one was by Alicia Munoz. And it is that microcheating is the act of cultivating in small ways inappropriate, intimate connections outside of your relationship. And I find this to be like a very well put definition. So as I dive into this topic today, if you find that you're struggling at any point with cheating in relationships, with not feeling sure if you can trust somebody, feeling like you're suspicious, feeling jealous, possessive, triggered, just feeling like you're walking on eggshells with any topics related to cheating, I highly recommend checking out, and you can check it out for free for 7 days, our Reprogramming Internal Trust and Overcoming Jealousy course. You can click the link below in the description box. You can enter into the school, and you can just type trust in the search bar from all the courses, and you'll see that one come up. It has so much to do with reprogramming our internal trust baseline and feeling like we can trust in a healthy way. It doesn't mean that we blindly trust everybody, but it will get you to a point where trust is something that you're not triggered by, you're not suspicious, you're not coping from feeling untrusting all the time. And you also feel like you can assert yourself if you see a red flag or a problem, and you trust yourself to be able to set boundaries, to talk about your needs and communicate, so that you're feeling like relationships can feel safe, can feel comfortable, and that you can really bond and connect with somebody without having to be on high alert all the time. So you can check that out for free by clicking the link in the description box below. And essentially, when you think about it this way, you can look at it from the dynamic of, is it cheating or is it not cheating? And a lot of people have a whole bunch of different schools of thought and opinions about this. And my answer for this is that it's not one or the other. It is going to be what both couples agree upon and communicate about being okay and not okay within a relationship dynamic. And when it's not addressed, when things are not discussed, so let's just give some examples first and foremost. Let's say microcheating can be texting somebody in a flirtatious way back and forth from the workplace, having inappropriate comments, or flirting with somebody in the workplace on a regular basis, or a friend or an ex from the past. And as we talk about those different examples, they're going to mean different things to different people, and rightfully so. Dating and human beings are not a one size fits all. Patterns are very much a part of human interaction and can have a lot of weight and a lot of pull, but different things will still mean different things to unique individuals. So an example of this is you might see somebody flirting and a dismissive avoidant being on the receiving end of their partner microcheating by flirting a lot with somebody. And that may not affect them the exact same way that would affect, for example, a fearful avoidant who tends to have more wounds around trust and can be more activated by those different things. And it doesn't make it more right or more wrong. What should happen in an ideal and perfect situation is couples talk about what's appropriate for them ahead of time. And they talk about what's not okay and what their boundaries are around these different things and different interactions. Now, you may see, for example, as well, that something that one person would never consider to be cheating, one other person is taking very personally, right? One person may think, oh, I've been reconnecting with an ex and it's just in a friendly manner. And maybe their intentions are not to be flirtatious or cross any boundaries or lines, but to have some sort of friendship. And if the person on the recipient end doesn't feel that way, then they're going to experience it as microcheating. So there's this really interesting dynamic when it comes to microcheating, which is not just the relationship that each of the couples has to the event that's taking place, but also the relationship that the person who's taking action that's trending towards microcheating, the relationship they have to the action itself. So you may find, for example, that somebody texts an ex because they're worried about that person, they want to check in, or because they want to have some sort of friendship or be on good terms. And from the recipient's end, it's like, why are you speaking to your ex? this is a form of microcheating. So it's this really delicate, unique relationship where we really get to the bottom of these things and have the healthiest relationship to them when we talk about them, when we bring these things to the surface, and when we know in advance. And what I find as well is when microcheating is taking place pervasively over time in relationships, and a person doesn't know about it and finds out about it after the fact, that's when they're much more likely to receive it as a betrayal. So let me give you another example here. Let's say that, let's pretend I'm dating Bob. And let's say I decide, oh, my ex reached out to me and asked how I'm doing, and I'm going to have a conversation to be polite. And then maybe I start having conversations and we're sort of building a friendship over time. My relationship to it may be innocent. It may be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. It's somebody from the past. But what can make it problematic, and this is a place that people often fall into the trap of acting within at times, is when I then go, I don't know how my current relationship with Bob would take this. They might be offended. They might not like it. So to avoid conflict, I'm not going to say anything. And then 6 months later, after I've been having this friendship and communicating, all of a sudden it comes out, and now it doesn't just look like microcheating. It often looks like a big form of betrayal. And so this is, even though the relationship for the one person may be innocently motivated, it can still be received as microcheating from the other person's end, right? And I see this all the time, and I tend to see this trending more so towards dismissive avoidant individuals, or people who are more conflict avoidant in general, and think, oh, this isn't a big deal for me, so I don't need to explain anything and bring it up because it could be received as a big deal and I don't want the conflict. And this is where we get into those really muddy waters with these sorts of topics. So really important dynamic to sort of be aware of. And again, like the biggest thing that moves the needle around microcheating into something healthy is the more transparency, the better, right from the beginning. So is it cheating? It can be in some ways, dependent on the person and the person on the receiving end, how they receive it, and also the person's relationship to it. Obviously, if I'm dating Bob and I have a different situation where I'm like, oh, I have unmet needs from my relationship to Bob, and I'm seeking them through communicating and flirting with an ex and sending flirtatious text messages and, saying things that are inappropriate while I'm in a relationship. Now we have a different relationship to the action that I'm taking. And it's also going to likely be received poorly by Bob, especially if I don't talk about these things until after the fact. So we have this like really unique territory that's important to sort of break down and define, because the more we can sort of break it up and dissect it, the more we can work on the individual parts to bring healing to the potential situation that may be happening. So what I find to be super important is, number one, the awareness that whether the individual actions are motivated by something that could be trending towards cheating or not, whether it's just friendship, whether it's just having a fun time, whether it's just a flirtatious friendship with a coworker, whatever it might be, these things do wear away at our relationship dynamics. They can really hurt over time another person, especially when they're not handled appropriately. And so what I find to be really valuable is a few key things that you can do. Number one, proactively define your boundaries in relationships, with texting, with communicating with exes. And it doesn't have to be communicate or don't. It can be how you communicate with an ex. One person may say, I want to talk to my ex and be friends with them. They were somebody that was in my life for 10 years or whatever it might be. Or you may raise a family, right? You may co-parent with an ex, right? But it doesn't have to always end in polarities. It can end in something like, hey, what we're going to do is we are going to bring transparency to that. We're going to, when you talk to your ex or see them, let me know about it. Let me know how it goes. And I could also use reassurance around it and just clarity. Like, there are ways that we can, instead of saying it has to be all or nothing, there are ways that we can cultivate a healthy relationship with some of these different experiences that we may be exposed to in relationships. So that is a huge topic in and of itself. I feel like just co-parenting and microcheating could be its own huge topic, and how it can be perceived from the other person's end. I've seen a lot of clients over the years go through some challenges and struggles there. So let me know if you want to see more about that. But it's really important to realize the impact. So number one, you can set boundaries ahead of time, state your needs around different interactions and experiences that you have, state what's okay with you or not. And number two, if you do communicate about something, let's say it's me and Bob again, and I am communicating with an ex, I can share about that as initially as possible, like right when it happens, communicate about it in my relationship and communicate the why early on and create the reassurance and say, look, this person reached out. I wasn't going to be impolite. And this is how the interaction went. And if you are comfortable with it, I may chat with that person from time to time, but just wanted to keep you in the loop with that and be respectful. So that is extremely important, bringing transparency to it as it's taking place. And transparency as to like what your internal relationship is to the situation. You may even say to the person, there's nothing there for me. It's not, anything in a negative way, or that could harm our relationship. And, do we want to have boundaries around that as a couple? Maybe I'll just say hello to the person once a year and check in. So the more you're developing this, and this can be with friendships, I've had people ask me about like friendships when they're in a relationship now and they've got really close friends that they also used to have some sort of situationship with in the past, and really trying to pick that apart and figure out how to best manage those types of situations. So, it's important that when we look at microcheating itself, it's this sort of two-part conundrum in a way, where it can be the internal relationship and also how it's received. And those are going to be some really great strategies to start off with in terms of how to, cultivate trust around potentially challenging situations. And the very last thing that I want to leave you with, and I feel like we'll put some more content together here about different attachment styles and how it's received, is that if you're on the receiving end of something that makes you feel uncomfortable, the way out is also going to be always to communicate, to set boundaries, to express needs, and to let somebody know in a relationship what's okay with you or not, because they can just be small things that are taking place, but they can also be red flags for potentially challenging experiences long-term that can break apart relationships. And the faster these types of dynamics are nipped in the bud and just communicated about in a healthy way and brought to light, usually the better the relationship is going to be in terms of its strengthening and its bonding from working through these things long-term. So hopefully this all makes sense. I feel like there's so much to talk about in terms of this topic. Let me know what else you want to see in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.